I've been staring at this blood glucose profile inside of the Freestyle Libre app for like ever since I first got this thing. And I'm like, I keep on asking myself the question. I'm like, how do I get this thing to be as flat as possible? Because that's ultimately what every person with type 1 diabetes is looking for, every person with type 2 diabetes, and even non-diabetics. They're just like, just give me a nice, normal physiological variation, somewhere between 70 and 130, keep it there all day long, and then my problems are solved. That's going to lower my risk for future complications, and it's going to keep it's going to keep my energy levels high, and it's going to maximize my my longevity on this planet, right? So that's what everybody's after, including me. Right. So going back to what we were saying earlier, if I turn this thing off and I check my blood glucose the way that I've always been doing it as a normal human being, what I will find is that when I check my blood glucose, I'm checking it, call it maybe every 2 hours or so. I'll get like a 96 now, and then 132 after a meal, and then 110 an hour later, and then an 84 before dinner, and so on and so forth. And if I just kind of like loosely connect the dots on like 6 to 7 to 8 blood glucose checks throughout the day, well, then guess what? My time in range is quite high. It's in the 90%, which is fantastic. But I'm only taking, 8, 9, 10 blood glucose measurements. And the corollary to that is, well, Cyrus, maybe there was a really high, blood glucose reading in between your blood glucose checks. And maybe you just missed it. Right? Maybe an hour after you ate, your blood glucose went up to 220. And then by the time you checked it, it was back down to 130 and you just didn't see it. So here you are assuming that your glucose is in range, but in reality, it's not. So I was like, all right, I'll accept that. Let me go check more frequently. So then I would check more frequently every hour on the hour. And it just proved exactly what I was thinking, which is that glucose is nicely controlled. So cool. That's a nice thing. So what I'm getting at here is that when you look at the actual blood glucose profile that the app itself draws you, I was sitting here thinking, I was looking at it and I was like, why is it so jagged? Why is it so jagged? Why is it so jagged? And then boom, it dawned on me. And I was like, oh, so frustrating. Okay. The app manufacturers have taken what I'm looking at here. This is what I'm looking at. I don't know if you can see this on the screen right here. Okay. This is actually considered to be, it's super reactive, right? It doesn't look good. It looks very jagged. But in reality, this is a pretty high time in range, with the exception of those, 1, 2, 3, 4 glucose lows, right? The way that this graph is drawn, the way that they display it on the Freestyle Libre 3 app, is they take the x-axis, which is time, and they compress it, because your phone is a vertical device. So they compress the x-axis, and then the y-axis is elongated. So if you take any graph and you compress the x-axis and you elongate the y-axis, then you're going to turn a normal, let's call it a normal sine wave, and you're going to turn it into something that looks like mountains. Because again, you're compressing the x-axis and you're elongating the y-axis, and that's going to get a higher amplitude, and it's going to make it look more jagged. And so when I first saw that, I was like, man, this is frustrating. So let me turn my phone horizontal, and then it should appear a little bit more natural. You can't do that in this app. It literally will not turn horizontal. You have to go to your computer in order to do that. And I'm not going to sit in front of my computer all day long in order to visualize it. The Dexcom allows you to look at it horizontal. And when you do that, you start to see that there's a much more normal blood glucose variation. And as a result of that, emotionally, as the user, you look at it and you're like, okay, cool. The world is a good place. When I look at this graph, I think to myself, damn it, Cyrus, you're making a mistake. Why is there such a steep rise and a steep fall? Why is it going up and then down and then up and then down and then up and then down? Oh, the reason for that is because the actual display itself on the app is distorted. And as a result of that, I am getting emotionally frustrated over something that is actually, in my opinion, designed very poorly. Am I being too harsh and critical?
No, that's exactly why I make flashcards, because this is what you wanted to see, and that's the reality of what actually happened. That's 100% time and range, and that's the nature of the human body, is to roll. It's not to go, never mind, never mind, never mind, especially when you don't make insulin. You don't react that quick. It doesn't react that quick. That's just how it operates. That's why I say it doesn't want to work hard. And they didn't even study that. They didn't even look at the accuracy of those rapid movements. But I didn't realize that this was an axis issue. axis issue. Boy, it takes an engineer to notice those kinds of things, doesn't it, Kylie?
Yes. I know. I was like, oh, there's a problem and he'll solve it. Like,
well, again, like I just want to preface this whole conversation with like, my goal in going into this experiment is not to be a naysayer. I'm not trying to pick out all the flaws and point out all the things that they could have done better. I'm just trying to use the technology to my advantage so that I can gain value from it and make Kylie's life easier and make my life easier. But in the process, it's just been like one roadblock after another, after another, after another. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, how many billions of dollars did you guys invest into this technology, and how many years and how many clinical trials and how many meetings with the FDA in order to give me and other users an app and a device that is just plain problematic, right? And again, I sound like I'm being a jerk here, but maybe we're just premature. Maybe a year from now, this conversation is going to be moot because the sensor will be more accurate. It's not going to have as many compression lows. The app will be fixed. And all of a sudden now, great, everybody can, sing Kumbaya and hold hands together. That would be awesome. I can't wait to get to that point.